Welcome to the Empowered Team podcast. I am very excited today to bring to you another live presentation that I did not too long ago. And this one is the next step from the tyranny of how. So if you haven't listened to the episode just a couple episodes ago on the tyranny of how, go listen into that one because this one is its next step. This is the series. This is the second one of 3. So this one, today, you're going to get the goods, because you'll discover why you may have some hidden values and how they sabotage your success. You'll discover past patterns and these residual automations that might be running the show. You'll discover the biggest mistake that high achievers make, and a really powerful way to spot and break free from this thing that we call the miserable maybe. Now, we know that it can get tough when you're taking new action, scary action, big action. However, that's when you're typically in the messy middle and it's chaotic and it's crazy. But we're not talking about the messy middle. We're talking about the miserable maybe. And most of us get stuck in here every once in a while, maybe a little too frequently. And this episode is going to help you through. So listen in. Here we go. Ready? Everybody's attention? Here. What is the matter? How you guys feeling?
Cool.
Wow. And you're overcoming some of that brain mush?
Yeah.
Your brain felt a little mushy along this journey. Yeah. Good. Hands up. Here we go. What's this one? Vision. What's this one? Net vision. What's this one? Star vision. Yeah. Where do we have trouble?
Right.
I said, where is it? I feel loud. Awesome. Okay, and to get over this troubling spot called the tyranny of how, what did we do? We had 3 things. Give me one person to remember one of them. Ask better. How we got Irina?
Ask better questions.
Yes, that's one of them. Do you remember which one that was? Was it the first, the second, or the third one? Do you remember? Did anybody remember? Third.
I said you shot first action.
It was the second one. I get to give you.
Yeah, I'm not curious.
Clarity. Right answer it. Come on. Okay, another one. Now, better questions.
The tyranny of higher.
Yes, we were doing the tyranny of how. Absolutely. So to get over it, we asked better questions and
take action, do some.
Yes, that was number 3. What was the first one? Anybody remember?
Remember the vision.
Yes, exactly. Remember your why. What's pulling you forward? Notice how that's the last thing you all came up with?
Yeah.
Because that's not what we focus on, is it? No, we're stuck. We're in the tyranny of how. We are struggling. So that's where we're having a hard time. So has anyone ever heard of the messy middle?
Yeah, that is.
It's okay. Now, if you're in the messy middle, what does that imply?
Chaotic.
You're alive. It might be messy, a little bit chaotic. There's some stuff going on around you, but it also typically applies that when you're in the messy middle, you're probably doing some shit or probably taking action, right?
Yep, yes.
We're not talking about the messy middle today. I want you to distinguish from the messy middle to miserable maybe.
Okay.
Miserable maybe. You've talked so much and learned so much and gotten so intimate about who your avatar, right? You know this person. And does everybody have a name for your avatar?
Yes.
Can somebody share one of the names with me? Eva?
Sarah.
Sarah? Getting to know our avatars, right? How well do you know you?
Well.
Pretty well. Some of you know yourselves very well. How well do you know your values?
Well,
some of you know your values very well. Is there anybody here who can tell me, say, 3 or 4 of their values just like that? Baz, tell me 3, then Michael, tell me 3.
honesty, integrity, and authenticity.
Honesty, integrity, and authenticity. It sounds really awesome and not so fun. I used to be in that boat. Okay, go ahead.
So 2 of them are identical, honesty and integrity, and get shit done, whatever that reads. If I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it.
Awesome. Okay. So that's integrity.
Then have
And I was just going to say, you know what my old ones were? Strength, integrity, respect. I lived and died by that. I also almost lived and died by that. If you hear somebody's values, you're going to start to see some things. Go ahead.
grace, integrity, and faith.
Grace, integrity, and faith. Okay. Go ahead.
I'm less pulled to those kinds, but I would mind passion, fun, and love.
Passion, fun, and love. Go ahead. The next.
Integrity and passion and curiosity.
Okay. Interesting. Now, when some of you are hearing these and you kind of know that person, does it seem aligned?
There's
There's a few nods though, and you're like, yeah, that person, I could see that as being their values, right? Now, most of you in this room, maybe every single person in this room is very growth minded. You like to grow yourself personally. So you're putting out the values that you want to be congruent with, correct?
Yeah.
All right. So how did those come into existence? Let's just take a look at this because this is going to be where your miserable maybe exists. I promise you. I promised you. I promise you.
That's great.
So how did they come into existence? You decided, like I did, strength, integrity, and respect. Why did I pick that? Because I had to survive at the time. I was a single mom. I was doing all sorts of things. There was lots going on. I had to survive. That was keeping me going. And then at some point I decided, what the heck? You know, I need a little more fun in my life. This isn't fully who I am. I know myself. I'm not just, full of strength, full integrity, full respect, and that's all I am and all I ever do. No, I'm also humor, enthusiasm, and love. Okay? That's how I balanced it out. And I had a ring that I've worn for so many years that reminded me every time I looked at it of those 6 values. Now, that was many years ago. And since then, my values have evolved and I re-look at them and reorder them and re-understand them every 6 months to every 12 months. That's how much I want to understand my own evolution. So here's what happens with your values. This is what I call a values disruption. Something happens in your life. It's usually something external, but sometimes you can create the values disruption. You get married, you graduate from school, you get fired. Something happens, and it means that the same order and priority of values are now changed. But it's often an outside circumstance. It could be even COVID. It could be something. It could be your business suddenly having more success and not changed your values in some way, but you may not have even realized it. This is the problem. And this is one of the reasons why my clients who are fast movers, I want them to check in every 6 months. Let's look at your values. Because something happens, like a change in the market, a change in their business, there's a disruption, and lo and behold, they've had to pivot. They've had to grow. They've had to change, and thereby their values have changed. Has anybody have experienced this? Everybody. Yes. And his low-hanging fruit example would be something like person who was very close with their buddies. They always like to go out. They're really close with their friends. They get married. They have a baby. And then all of a sudden, their value of friend connection goes below their value of family or something like that. Easy, low-hanging fruit. That's a values disruption. But let's say there's a next step to that. See, that guy still wants to go out with their buddies. They have a league. They have the baseball league. They want to drink beer there. But now this family guy is growing up the corporate ladder, really focused on leadership, really focused on what they're doing and providing for life. Guess what happens then? They still want to go hang out with their buddies. And they go hang out with their buddies, but it's weird. They love the guys. They feel really connected with them. Have you experienced this before? Do a self-check. You love those guys. They are awesome. You are tight with them. But then when you go to do the ball league and you go to have the beer with them, it doesn't feel the same. And then you realize that instead of doing this once every week, you'd rather do it like once a month. And then you realize instead of once a month, you get away with it a couple times a year and be good with it. Anybody experience something like this? That's where you bump up against what I call a values conflict. Because you still have that value of good friends, but what happened? Your other values bumped up that list. You following? Okay. So now you've got a values disruption. you've got a values conflict. There's going to be two areas that your miserable baby is hiding, and you're experiencing it throughout this process. You're going to experience it when you take more action on your blueprint. You're going to experience when you hit the next hurdle and what it looks like, just like that next vision, just like the tyranny of how. What it looks like is that you are freaking trying to take the action, but you are still stuck. And you're following the three things. You're going, I'm looking at my forward vision. I'm asking myself better questions. And what the heck? I took a bloody action. And then you still feel like you're in this miserable maybe, taking a step forward, taking a step back. Where you're usually going to find some trouble is you're either up against a values conflict or, dun, 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 a hidden value that you're not even aware is there. A hidden value that you're not even aware is there. Can somebody give me an example of a hidden value that you may not even be aware is there? That
Gross.
growth. Awesome. Somebody else, April?
Transactions.
Accepted. Somebody else?
I gotta be honest. Peace.
Peace.
Ritual. Self-love.
Self-love. You're still not there. You're still not there. You want to know how I know? But all of you have an affinity to the value that you mentioned. Growth, peace, acceptance, self-love. And you do not have an affinity with growth. That's what you're going to say. Okay? So that may be a hidden value for you. Test it out. Keep going.
Grace.
Great.
Grace.
Grace. Okay. What I'm going to suggest is that your hidden value sounds, looks, feels something more like suffering. Your hidden value sounds, looks, feels something more like dominance. Your hidden value sounds, looks, feels something more like sadness or depression. That's your hidden value, baby. And nobody in this room, this growth-minded, amazing, accepting, and self-loving room will want to really go, I have a value of suffering. That's not me. But I promise you, it's going to show up. And where you're going to start to see it is in your patterns. And I'm going to give you an example. And because I'm learning to trust this room more and more and more, and trust was a challenging one for me for quite some time. But because I'm learning to trust this room, I'm going to give you a little personal information without too much detail. That I've experienced a number of things, from sexual abuse to physical abuse to neglect to stalking to scarcity, you name it. Survival. But based on what I learned as a kid and experienced as a kid, there's a fair bit of suffering going on there. There's a fair bit of suffering, and I'll bet a fair number of you in here probably experienced some of that. You want to know how I know? It's because you're entrepreneurs. And entrepreneurs typically have a higher tolerance of stress, a higher tolerance of suffering. Why? A lot of them have experienced some form of trauma. And they learn how to pivot faster. They learn how to tolerate more. They learn how to go. They learn how to have grit and resilience. Am I right?
Yeah.
Not trying to be right, but I do want to find out if this is landing. All right? So, let's say I suffered a bit, but then I grew and I learned more and I started to have more self-acceptance and more self-love and things like that. Growth, strength, integrity, honesty, more fulfilling things too, passion, joy, love, all those things. But we really want those things called joy and passion and love. And we don't want those things called sadness, suffering, and whatever. But the bigger picture is that this is the experience of life, and it's basically a 50-50 experience. If we keep ignoring the negative half, we're usually perpetuating or expanding the negative half. Can everybody see that? So here's the thing about our values and about your miserable maybe. If you see a pattern that isn't working, that pattern is pointing to that hidden value. I'm going to give you one of mine. Let's put it in the context of marketing. He's mentioned my podcast. Now, have I marketed my podcast really? Not so much. Not so much. But when I suffered, what did I get really good at it? Remember my values, strength, integrity, and respect? That's how I got through that. Those for me encompassed working harder, trying harder, overperforming. Anybody familiar with overperforming? Okay. Trying harder, working harder.
And
So then you go into trying harder, working harder. Podcast. What can I do really well? Work harder, try harder. But am I getting the abundance and ease that I'm looking for? No. That's what it means when you have 325 podcast episodes, but you don't really tell people about it very much. And they're good. There's great interviews, there's great topics. But instead of, so here's the value that's being served. If I try harder, if I work harder, that creates more suffering. That's the hidden value. Little do I know, I'm perpetuating a value that doesn't serve where I want to go. Everybody seeing that?
yep.
Find your pattern. Because as soon as we are going to something new called the top of funnel, called the middle of funnel, called your next offer, whatever it is, as soon as you go to something new, your pattern will emerge. And that pattern is going to point to, oh, maybe pity party, feeling sorry for myself, or sadness, oh, I can't do this, or I'm a failure, or I'm not worthy. That's what's going to start to point to that pattern. So knowing yourself, and I'm so glad that you have your values. I'm so glad that that's where you're focusing. But don't forget to embrace all of you. Holy cow. It's okay that you suffered. It's okay that sometimes you like to have a pity party. As long as you can see it, have grace for yourself, acceptance, and go, this is where my pattern's going to come in and stop me from getting exactly what I want in this far vision. This is the miserable maybe. We're going to be stuck in some sort of misery, and it's going to be called your sadness, your pity party, your suffering, whatever it is. But you don't want to get stuck there. This is where we want to go. In this miserable maybe, we go, okay, love, what do you need here? What do you need here? All right, I may not be being all strength or integrity or respect right now, but I'm kind of sad, or I'm suffering, or I'm feeling sorry for myself. All right, let's just be with that for a second. And that's okay. That's okay. This is where I'm at in this moment. Because you are not a feeling. You are not your thoughts. You are not your actions. But you can see all of that, so let it be there for a hot second. Every storm runs out of rain. Let yourself be there for a second. See when you're in the miserable maybe. See your pattern. And then if you can, take that pattern and go, okay, what can I apply here? And go back to, here is my important, meaningful, wonderful why of amazing vision. Yep, that's next. I'm going to ask a better question. Not, how do I do this? Why isn't this working? I suck at this. Why do I suck so bad? And then we're going to take another step. We're going to take another step. And we're going to take another step. And we're going to take another step. And that, my friends, is the miserable maybe. If you know it's there, if you know and are prepared and are accepting that, yes, even though you've got some really awesome, amazing values, that yes, you've got some other ones running the show too. But if you don't want to see it and you don't want to admit that it's there, it's going to control you. It's going to control your business, your marketing, your family. It's going to control you. So allow yourself to see what's there. Allow yourself to see what's there. And it's okay. And of course it's there. That suffering taught you how to be strong. That sadness taught you how to care. That pity party taught you how to actually start to look at what your own need might be. You may not want to stay there all day long, all week long, or for 2 hours straight, but they served you, I promise you. So now take a look at it from the context of, yes, I can see this and I can see all of me, just like I'm willing to see all of my avatar. And I'd bet you sometimes you care more for your avatar than you do yourselves.
Yeah.
So if you're willing to give that to your avatar, hello, it's up to you to give that to yourselves. Full acceptance, full understanding, full seeing of all of your values, not just the ones you want to have, not just the ones that look good, but the ones that actually are still part of you that have helped you along the way. Okay?
Can you do an example of running someone through this?
Repeat it.
In terms of how to see, how to find your own value.
I'm confused on what hidden values I have that I'm keep Cardi.
Okay.
Cardi. We don't have micros or student tripping the question.
Oh, okay. So one person said, I want to walk me through how do I find that pattern? How do I find that hidden value? Another one said, I'm confused as to what are my hidden values? So here's the question. Everybody answer this question. The last time I was stuck or felt really low, what happened in that? And where has that pattern repeated? So the last time I was stuck, so it could be a situation somebody gave you feedback you didn't like and it pissed you off all day long. Anyone have that one before? Something didn't work out the way you thought it would. Go ahead, Jared.
So this is what I put in my hidden values, meaning then it stucks. Overwhelmed, procrastination, not asking for help, not capitalizing on my resources and something.
And suffering. Okay. So the procrastination and the overwhelm and the not capitalizing on resources are all a byproduct of the suffering, which is a byproduct of I'm not worthy.
Yeah.
Can everybody see that for him? It's so much easier to see in someone else. As someone you love and respect, it's so much easier to see it because you hold space for them and you love them and you accept all of them. So then when they say that, you go, oh, you're procrastinating, you're not using your resources, you're stuck in overwhelm, and then you're suffering, and those are your hidden values. Well, it's the suffering that are really all procrastinating, not using resources, and being an overwhelm. And that suffering is actually a byproduct of not having the self-worth. And when I say that, that's all of us. That's all of us. There's somewhere, even if you feel whole, you feel complete, there's somewhere where you may have healed that area, but sometimes even if that area is healed, even if that area is great, there might just be a residual pattern, a residual habit. That's all. And then when you can see it and allow yourself to see it, then you go, oh, that was just that pattern from my past, the one that helped me become really strong. I see it. It's just emerging differently in this context. That's all. That's all. Go ahead, Beth.
So what you're talking about now is the symptoms to a deeper lying issue. I haven't got an issue, it's just part where you are, but it's the awareness of the symptoms that track it back to the core.
Yes. Yes. And it emerges as sadness. It emerges as overwhelm. It emerges as suffering or procrastinating. But find your thing. And then you're going to have a pointing to, why is it in this particular context do I keep getting overwhelmed? Why is it in this particular context do I perpetuate my own suffering? Somebody else was going to ask something, but if I go ahead, Kim.
It's really a question for me to add to what you're saying. This is also the work that I do. I recommend a podcast to everyone if they'd like to listen to it. That will really add to what Pari's saying. I think the most important thing that I have found is that when you figure out what this is, the key is not to push it away, because otherwise it's going to keep coming back and it sits in our body. And I think that to be able to embrace it and to truly say, anytime at the end of the day, if you say, I should have done that, I feel, anytime you feel that feeling in your gut, to the throat or your stomach or your head, and you recognize that and you just look a little further and get curious in yourself and say, what is that? When did that first occur? Was I 7? Was I 10? And actually, those are really affecting me at 50, 40, 50, 60 in my business. And then to be able to embrace it and say, oh, I see you, and I'm actually going to take you with me. And I'm not that person, and I'm not that feeling, and I'm not that emotion. And if I let you go, it was recognize you, and I work through it, although it feels really hard in this moment, then we actually get past it. So,
and that's thank you for sharing that, because and by all means, I think there's a group chat. I don't know what the rules are about sharing a podcast, but by all means, approach Kim for the podcast, because it is exactly that. And we could go into all kinds of exercises that we do, what I call a first domino. And there are formative times of life, typically around anywhere between 4 and 7 years old, 10 and 14, and 18 to 22. Those are the key times that you're usually making some sort of traumatic-based decision, and it affects you for the rest of your life. So those are the types of things that are there. But we want to hold it in this context right now so you can utilize it. Utilize it now. Utilize it today to go, if I'm feeling the and like Kim said, the is the body giving you the signal. That's your little red flag that goes, oh, this is the flashing light I need to listen to. So the body is simply holding a frequency that has come from an experience and it's being held in the body, called an emotion. That's all. And it's there, and we remember it. It's tied with memory. It's there, and we remember it to affect every one of our future patterns. So when we can see it for what it is, we can help ourselves. So when you get to the miserable maybe, we've got the tyranny of how, and then you realize that we're not just going to look externally. We're not just going to look at a vision. We're not just going to look at what am I doing wrong? What action do I need to take? We're not just going to look at our avatar. We're going to look back at ourselves to go, okay, why am I holding myself back here? What's going on? Am I being led by suffering and that just over trying on this one thing and it's not working? What am I doing here? That's knowing yourself. Because as you know, as we all are typically aware from one example or another, we're the bottleneck in our business. You could be so amazing, have the best product ever. We're the bottleneck. But we don't want to look at that from a space of, I suck. But we want to look at that from the space of, awesome. Now I know how to figure this out. This is so great. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. Other questions before we wrap this one? No more questions? Clear as mud? Is it Eric?
Yes.
And then Abel.
Just another way of saying something you said that I found very appealing in this discussion, because it's one of the last things we might have expected coming in, which is that, you may actually do the work when you do the releasing and you get that stuff settled and you're at a better place,
You're healed.
right?
In a lot of
But
ways.
if you're still doing the behavior you don't want to be doing,
Yes.
I like to call that a zombie program.
Yes. You're in a trance.
Yeah.
A zombie program, use your lingo. Absolutely. It's not even you anymore that's doing it. It's not even you anymore that's doing it, but it's just a repetition of pattern. That's all it is. It's just it's an automated pattern. And the reason we automate it, because our brain doesn't want to think about it. We want to put it in the zone of make it easy. It's just an automated pattern. So hear me. You may have areas you still need to heal. Most of us do. You may have areas that you've completely healed. And even those areas that have completely healed may still have some residual automations. Residual automations that are having you act in ways that aren't aligned or congruent with who you are now. Okay? That's the best ways I can put it.
The last point about that is that because it's a zombie program or residual animation, there's no more emotional baggage fueling in. And so therefore it's easy to knock out.
So much easier. The thing that's missing is seeing it. And that's why I want you to have your radar on. And you're looking for the pattern where you feel stuck. You're looking for the pattern when you have a weird feeling. Those are the things that are going to give you the greatest information. Abel, you're going to say something. A quiz that you're aware of?
I'll ask you.
Me?
Yes.
So, I have a mastermind for that. Okay.
Do you need to repeat that? Because even I can't hear.
He wanted to know if there was like Quinn to figure that out, to find that hidden value. So, what I'm asking for you, I'm asking from you, is that you check in. Don't ignore when you're feeling just a little off. Don't ignore the pattern that's been replicated over and over. Just go, okay, this isn't me. This isn't who I'm committed to being in my future or now or who I really am. This is something else. Let's get myself past it. And by all means, by goodness, do not use that as a buffering technique to keep you from taking action in your bloody market. Don't get sidelined by trying to heal something because I can't go forward unless I heal it. No, you go forward and let yourself feel along the way. You go forward and take the action. That is how you grow. You do not stop. You do not pass go. You just keep going. It's not a stop and stop and stop. You just keep going. Take a little step, pause. Take a little step, pause. Take a little step, pause. That's what walking is. It's one of the simplest things that we do that's terribly complex all at the same time. All right. Can you do it? Hell yeah. You can. Awesome. And thank you. Great job, guys.